You've got questions, I've got answers. Here we go. So this one's going to be a little bit interesting to me anyway. And this is questions that I got replying on Congressman Scott DesJarlais' Facebook. And as I'm doing this, people will post on there, and I just reply that they have got an alternative, and then direct them to my stuff. I I try to refrain from any disparaging comments towards the congressman on there, and just kind of let people know that they have a choice and they can look at me as a candidate and we can sort it out from there. So that's where these questions, as we get to it, are coming from. And interesting in that the way the whole thing transpired, there was a little bit of back and forth, and actually it was a total of three. There was an initial comment, and the person doing this is Jeff Hutchison, where you can go on there and figure this out on Facebook where this all went down. But and this is like the first, I, I don't know, I guess really like attack I've had. So and I'm gonna read through it and then we'll talk a little bit more, and I will answer these questions in here. So here is the first exchange. So again, this was the reply or to my comment, and he just kind of threw it out there on me. So, and again, this is Facebook, which you'll see this posted there. Tom Davis for Congress. You are just another far right goose stepping thug. The only freedom you worry about is your rights and your far right thugs' rights. You don't care about the rights of others. Shrink government more so the wealthy and criminals can do whatever they desire. No thanks. Your gun rights aren't even in danger. Just goose step to Putin's Russia. You are a better fit there. I doubt you will respond to my comments because you are weak. Am I right? Right wing thug. So that was the initial comment. Here is my response. And again, directed at Mr. Jeff Hutchison. And I say, thanks for your comments. Since you seem to know me and my background so well, it is very hard to comment on what you have to say. On 14 May, I will be at the Huddle House in McMinnville from 8 to 9 a.m. having coffee with veterans. You are certainly welcome to attend and actually meet me and discuss your concerns with me. You can also find me on YouTube at Tom Davis TN4 or at Red4 Reviews to see how I stand on the issues. I also answer questions that I have been asked in videos, and that's at Tom Davis TN4. If you are interested in getting to know me, please feel free to join my page to ask questions. You can comment on the page, direct message questions, or email me at tomdavistn4@gmail.com, and I am more than happy to answer. Thanks again for your comments and for engaging in our Republican form of government. And here's where it went a little bit different than I was expecting, and I think surprised to the better. So I'll read it, and then we can start answering questions, or I'll start answering them, and then we'll talk a little bit. So again, this is to me, Tom Davis for Congress. And it says, why do you support gun rights for convicted felons and those who are a danger to themselves or others? What exactly does limited government mean? I've seen plenty of examples of modern day conservative love big government. Why support something like term limits? It doesn't limit corruption, and those who have the money behind these Congress members will just pick the next guy too. Why not support a constitutional amendment that says money isn't speech? End freebies that lobbyists use to bribe our politicians and make public what lobbyists say to our elected officials. So we'll just go right back to it, and I will start answering the questions, and we'll talk through it, and you see where I am and the principles that I stand on. So the first one, why do you support gun rights for convicted felons and those who are a danger to themselves and others? So that's kind of a two-part. So convicted felons. So we have to break this down into, obviously, if they are in prison serving a sentence, they are not going to have a number of their rights. By definition, they have lost their right, been convicted of whatever felony is out there. So now the next question comes: once they leave the actual prison, if they are still on, if they are on parole, or depending on the state, some of them do this a little bit differently, but if they're on parole or probation, depends on the level of things, but typically, so probation, then they are still under those restrictions, and that can be a form of those conditions of release. Part of the conditions of release is you don't get to own firearms. Some states even restrict the right to vote. Now, I will say, past that, they have done their crime, they have done their time, they have paid their debt to society. Now, just like with investing, past performance doesn't indicate future. Uh, is there a likelihood? There absolutely is. But now we get into, are we going to minority report this stuff? And just because you've done this thing, and again, we just say felonies, and that's fine. We try and divvy all this stuff up, and let's have our justice system and the things we have deemed to be criminal activities, have a punishment for it, and then execute or enforce that punishment. Way too much flexibility in there. But so that being said, then we got to ask, does it matter what the felony was? Which we currently do. We tack on extra stuff if it was a, you know, whatever. If you're assaulting a police officer, right? Aggravated assault, or with a weapon, aggravated assault. Different states slice that up differently. So there is that. But again, once you've done your time, you've paid your debt to society. Why would you not get all those rights back? Because again, this Constitution in our form of government, or that Constitution, is a restriction on government and what it can and cannot do. So are we going to then take away their right of free speech just because you're a convicted felon? And I'm going with this being like, you're out of jail, you're off probation, you've served your debt. You should have it all back. Can you put something in place to you know have them file to get it back? Okay, that's we can have that discussion. Um, I would say once they've done that, they're back into the full status of citizen, and they've served it out. So, and now let's talk about danger to themselves or others. We used to have a system in place to deal with this, and whatever you want to call them, the crazy houses, the mental institution, whatever our correct term for it is, people that were a danger to themselves and others were housed in these facilities, and they were either they overcame that stuff, or they didn't and they stayed there. So I said we have gotten away from handling this in a manner that is best, I think, for everybody. And that's, if you have proven that you cannot live within our society and our on the value system that we have, then yeah, we should separate you from the society as a whole or at large. Put some controls in place. That's fine, and that's a limited. I mean, and we can't argue that to be an infringement on that individual's rights. But the other side of that is we are then taking care of them and taking steps to mitigate that danger to themselves or others. So some controls in place on that. That's fine. So there's that. Now the next one, what exactly does limited government mean? And I'm specifically talking about federal government. This is where I'm at, and it would even trickle down to states. I'm going to keep the same principles throughout, but because state constitutions kind of mirror the U.S. the federal Constitution, our overarching Constitution. And I would say limited is anything outside of that that the government has gotten itself into is what we need to limit. They are way down into our lives. And let's go back, the whole premise of this experiment was self-governance. I am responsible for myself, like governmentally, and then even myself as a Christian. First, I'm responsible to me and to God, and to try and live that life as best I can, and uphold the principles that are in the Bible, and how I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to treat others. The question here comes in is my rights and rights of others. Is it the federal government's job to like be down into our lives and dictating all everyday aspect? And the answer is no. We are responsible for ourselves, and then we do agree as a society to live under certain rules and conditions. But and this is not my saying. I've heard it. I know. I think our founders, whichever one. I'm not. Like I said, I am not going to take credit for this. But liberty is dangerous. Liberty is dangerous. But there is no way I would rather live, because living under a tyrannical government is even more dangerous, in my opinion. And we can look to, some historical evidence of that where governments have killed a lot of us. And even in this country, we have killed a lot of human beings through some nefarious activities. Recent times, abortion. We have killed a lot of people. So there is that. But once you make it out of the womb, this government has been, by and large, good to citizens and just the world in general. Why else is everybody trying to break down our doors to come here? More recently, it's to change the makeup and change us. But outside of that, there are still people in there that are just trying to better themselves. So there you go. So limited government is getting them out of our lives and within the scope of the Constitution. If it's outside of that scope, then they should absolutely not be doing it. And there are a bunch of examples out there of where this is the good idea fairy has dropped in for your safety, and it has gone absolutely sideways. I give you the ATF for one, Bureau of BATF, whatever they want to call themselves, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF. They regulate, and this is just one agency within the executive branch now that is just, and that's how the executive branch deals with it. If they can't get their legislation passed through the Congress or working with them, then okay, let's regulate. That is not the original design and intent. So that stuff, and I don't care who the president is, if it's not clear enough, they need to send it back to the legislative branch to clear it up. If the ATF is confused about what a pistol brace is, they should have kicked it back to the Congress to clarify. And just like in baseball, tie goes to the runner. So until they get that cleared up, there should be no rulings, no nothing. Knock it off. And even the data is misrepresented and twisted around to support agendas. Leave it alone. Shall not be infringed. There we go. So limited government. And if you'll also look kind of behind some numbers, last stat I heard was that into our gross domestic product, the GDP, 47% of that is government spending. The government creates zero. They don't create. And for that spending to be 47% is wrong. So let's cut some foreign aid. Let's cut these agencies. Let's get the states back to legislating this stuff that the federal government has taken. And like I said, we can start running down some agencies as examples. That was just one. So that's what limited government means, is they are minimally involved in my life. So, and right now it's big government for your safety, seatbelts, right? We don't even need to argue whether it's a good idea or not. It's the fact that I'm being told I have to do this or suffer consequences. That's tyranny. You're gonna wear a seatbelt, or you're gonna listen to this stupid ding 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 button, or get pulled over and be fined for it. That's tyranny, my friends. Pure and simple. Regardless of who, for my safety or not, and even that can be argued, but we're not gonna. So this is just where that's my definition. What does it mean? It means limited, restricted, small. The government should not be 47%. Federal government and even states should not be that big of a percentage of your gross domestic product. Forget it. Yeah, stop it. I've seen plenty of examples of modern day conservatives love big government. I would say this. I don't know necessarily conservatives. I think within the Republican Party, yes, you will find folks that are okay with big government and regulating. Just like was that last week or the week before, the HR, and it is 6090. It was the anti-Semitism, redefining anti-Semitism. Absolute assault on our First Amendment. Horrible, horrible idea. That is nonsense. And now they passed it out of the House. If this actually becomes law, makes it through the Senate, you can guarantee that it'll get signed into law. And then now you have passages of the Bible that are illegal. You cannot criticize the Israeli government, whether you want to or not. It's ridiculous. So it's not just the Second Amendment as we go back to the first one. I like to use that one as an example, but there is that. Um, yeah, there are Republicans that are for some big government. I am not. These agencies, all the bureaucracy, that nonsense. Cut them down. Cut them down. Um, why support something like term limits? So I've done several, or maybe two, or maybe three times on these Q&As. I've talked about term limits, and even to the point where I'm rephrasing how I say this. I think my principle is still the same, but maybe just how I articulate the meaning of what I'm trying to say. So we have an election cycle, and we have terms for each of those branches. I will address the U.S. House of Representatives because that's where I'm looking to go, and that is 2 years. So every 2 years, we the people have the ability to replace or to impose a term limit on an individual. We have that ability, and now what we've gotten into, and um, there's no easy answer. There's some simple things we can do, and that's give options or find a viable candidate to replace them and get the word out. Do our duty as citizens and let folks know, or put ourselves out there as a candidate as a replacement to what we currently have. So, and then also, so why support something like term limits? So there is a convention of states going on. I think we're at 22 states of the 34 that we need to do this, and one of the subjects to be discussed is term limits. And until recently, I hadn't even considered kind of the other side of this, and it's mentioned in here about it doesn't limit corruption and those who have money behind the, well, so just about it doesn't limit corruption. I would say it does limit it, because you've only got a certain amount of time you can serve in that position. But it does, for that last term, then you're done and you are responsible to no one. But the conversation is worth having, I think, if we get this convention of states together, because the Congress will never, they're not going to limit themselves. They had the chance. They could have done it when we amended the Constitution to limit the executive branch to 2 terms for presidents. So that's not going to happen. But let's have a discussion, get the states on board. And if, as a nation, we decide term limits are in our best interest, then that becomes the Constitution. So it's worth a discussion. And my own personal belief on it has been that 12 years is plenty. 12. So, and that's a self-imposed term limit, which I do believe that folks out there should do it. But I said, who is, why would Tennessee's 4th congressional district be allowed, or should we tell even in Tennessee, the fifth district, that they should not keep sending the same person over and over and over again, right? So, but within your own district, yeah, you've got a chance every 2 years to replace that somebody. Um, so, and it doesn't limit corruption. I said fair enough points, but then again, it comes back to we the people to vet our candidates and who we cast our vote for. If we just go in there on election day and the number I saw was like 7%, will just whoever's top of the ballot, boom. Or even to the point of how we're divided now, vote blue no matter who, or I don't know what the what the Democrats would say, vote red no matter, I don't know, whatever their catchy phrase is about Republicans that just line out the ticket or don't even show up for your primaries. That, or if you don't have choices in your primaries, like I said, go back to finding a candidate that's worthy or willing, and get to know the candidates. So this doesn't limit corruption. And you know what? As far as term limits, and why not support a constitution? Like I said, get the the Constitution, or the Constitutional or Convention of States together. I don't think that's on there about the lobbyists, but I will tell you right now, investigate the process of what goes on and what it takes to run for office. And back in the early 70s, we created the Federal Election Commission. And I don't think there's anywhere in the Constitution that says we do that. They have a Federal Election Commission. And so they have imposed rules, regulations, and the like. And then each state has done it a little bit differently as far as the rules to run. But um, that these lobbyists, man, and that was the whole point of that, was because everyone started crying about the lobbyists. Well, that get the Convention of States, or get enough folks together that, yeah, all these lobbyists. But then again, I don't know. You cannot completely stomp out corruption, other than if you find your representative is corrupt, get rid of them. Get rid of them. I mean, like I said, simple. Is it easy? Absolutely not, because through this process, it is a bit of an incumbent protection racket. I'll look into it. Do your own research and see what it takes to run for office at any level, and you will see what. And again, it's put barriers in place to give people that choice. So. Uh, there, there you go, and find candidates that um, are looking to serve the nation. And if that changes throughout their time, again, we have the mechanisms in place to limit terms. That is just, we have to do our due diligence as citizens and be willing to step into the arena and put ourselves out there for it. Which obviously, I'm answering these questions, I have done. So there we have it, kind of where I'm at on that. And uh, I think I have and some of this stuff, they're what we have are a lot of very complex issues, but they don't necessarily need to be. And as I've been saying, going through this, there are some problems we have to step, or this stuff is kind of irrelevant, and we'll be living under tyranny. We need to secure our borders. We have absolutely no obligation to take in refugees from everywhere else. Can we be some sort of help to them? Absolutely. But bring them in to the country, especially we're talking about bringing people in that hate this country. We are not going to win them over by bringing them in here. We have these people that we've elected into the House of Representatives that hate this country, hate our Constitution, and are absolutely going after us from within. And how do we fix that? We fight it from within. We go to Washington, D.C., send folks up there that have some principles, values, especially values that this nation was founded on, Christian values, and we push back on this mess and we take it back. And that's I've been called to this, and I am all in going for it. So that those are the fixes. I mean, if we step out and and think there's no hope, then there is, which comes to this mindset thing that we have. One, that it's somebody else's responsibility to take care of me. Can we help each other out? Absolutely. And if you take a look back to how we did business before, really it was the 30s, and there's more into it than that. Attacks on us, the Constitution. I mean, almost since inception, but interpretations, and now we try and reword things and change it. Stop it. It needs to, one, read the Constitution, the words, and then go with the definitions from the time. We're applying what we think we know now is ridiculous. They got it right. They absolutely got it right, and which is why this has been one of the most prosperous nations ever to come into existence. So, and for the people involved. Um, so there you go. I'll go back up to just real quick, I think, on some of these other ones. Shrink government so more wealthy and criminals can do whatever they desire. No, criminals, that a lot of this stuff we talk criminals, it's not the federal government's job to do some of this stuff. It's at your state level. And if you're on board with defunding local police departments, you're going to get more criminal activity. Um, I don't know why we've subscribed to this class warfare thing that, like, oh, we got to hate the rich. Why are you mad at the rich? In this country, you can do what it takes to be rich. If we're not rich, it's because we haven't put in the effort, or we haven't figured out how to do it, and we're mad at somebody else because they figured it out. Nonsense. Um, or become rich and give it all away, versus trying to we're talking about thugs, trying to get the IRS and the government to take what somebody has earned and give it to others that haven't earned it. Knock it off. And this goes back to, I mean, even within the Bible, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that's not to say if you can't work, that's a different story. But again, is the federal government supposed to be feeding the nation? No. They're supposed to be setting our conditions for success, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit of happiness. There's no guarantees in any of it. So, there you go. And as far as I'm gonna say probably all of us have been victimized, myself included. But I am not a victim, and neither are you. And stop letting people tell you that you are, and stop having people, or letting people tell you that it's somebody else's job to take care of you. That's a horrible idea. Um, Gun rights are in danger. Absolutely. You go talk about the ATF. Even now, they're trying to make all of us need to be FFLs just to sell property. Um, the whole mantra, and I'm not trying to put words into your mouth here, Jeff, but I will address it like this: if the whole thing I always hear is gun violence, gun violence. We gotta get rid of gun violence. Okay, what's the ultimate objective of that? Let's say for it, we can go, what's his name? Snap our fingers and get rid of all the guns. What are we left with? We're still left with violence. So how about you come up with some solutions to deal with the violence? And I have some. One is for each and every one of us to be dangerous, to exercise our Second Amendment rights and carry. Or if you choose not to carry, that's on you. But you having the government take away my ability, take away what is a tool, an inanimate object, is ridiculousness. And I'm gonna call it out on that every single time. Get rid of the guns, you still have the violence. So all you guys wanting to take away the guns, if you really wanted to save lives, we'd be walking everywhere, right? Because how many people are killed by automobiles every day? and even one further by DUIs, people drinking and driving, doing drugs and driving. Are we talking about getting rid of the cars? No. Why? Because it's ridiculous. So there is that. And then also with the Second Amendment, the the intent of that is so that we have a means to resist tyranny. And over the last 3 years, we have seen absolute tyranny, mandates for nonsense. And even now, the one I just saw, which the impact on us is going to be skyrocketing housing costs. So now, through regulation, the Biden administration is now telling us that we have to build houses in a certain way, a green new way, which again, hold completely nonsense. Tyranny, tyranny, stop it. All the stuff, the legislative branch, in my case in particular, we have some tools in there. Power of the purse. Stop paying for this trash and be done with it. So there we go. All right. I think I have bumped my gums long enough, and I hope I have answered the questions. And and I do thank you, Jeff, for coming back with those actual questions. This is a start, and we have got to dialogue with each other and not just go back and forth with some name calling and grr. I don't know you, so all I can do is take from what I read and control how I act. And as best I can, I am not going to do that. Uh, and I'm going to assume that you are in the fourth district. If you're not, that's fine. I'll still talk to you. Talked to a lady over the weekend that I was on complete opposite sides of an issue with, and we sat down, had a conversation, and she's probably not even in the district, but we got to be talking to each other, and I mean, convince me that my gun rights are not under attack. Um, Show me how the government is not regulating. Show me how the Safer Communities Act is better for me personally, because it is. I can be selfish in some things. That's fine, but in that selfishness, it helps others. Again, to give us a tool to protect ourselves from, one, a tyrannical government, and then two, as individuals, a disparity of force. So um, there is that. So, okay, I think again I have ran on long enough. I believe this is the longest one. So I am going to run it just like it is and go from there. So again, if wherever you're watching this, if you would on the YouTubes, do the YouTube thing, hit the like button, share, drop some comments. If you made it all the way through, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your participation in um, vetting me as a candidate and seeing if I am worthy of your vote. I do appreciate that. Facebook, same deal. Hit there's the like or the heart or whatever you do. Make a comment, share it. I am absolutely grassroots here, and if you do want to participate, that's the best way. Share it. Join me on Facebook, the group there. Get the word out. If you would like to participate with the campaign, help us out doing phone calls or door knocking or whatever, email us or even drop some comments with your contact info. But email tomdavistn4@gmail.com. I'm on the socials on YouTube. This video is at Tom Davis TN4. If you're watching it on Facebook, you already found me. And if you want to contribute financially to help me buy, ad space out there in the world, um, pay some guys I've got working for me. If you'd like to help them out right now, I've got all volunteers that are jumping on with me, and it is growing. So jump on board. But monetarily, you can find me at Give Send Go. Just search Thomas E. Davis, and I'll pop up. You'll see my mug on there. You can do Win Red. I'm on there. Same deal, Thomas E. Davis. And then show up in the primary on August 1st, or early voting is July 12th through the 27th, I believe it is. But that's where this election is at the general. And again, I am Republican, and I am running in the Republican primary. And that's if I don't win that one, then that I'm done for this cycle. So again, and regardless of how you work on it, I appreciate you watching it, sharing it, letting the word out. Maybe you got some friends that may find me more interesting or more valuable than what we have going. And like I said, if we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. $35 trillion in debt now, I think I've heard. Wide open borders. We're being invaded, and not only being invaded, but we've got an executive branch that I don't even want to mince words with it. It's treasonous. He is absolutely refusing to do his job constitutionally to secure the borders, and even facilitating flights in. Nonsense, nonsense, nonsense. And so anyway, if you like that, the out of control spending and the assault on our rights. Again, freedom of speech. That was just on the just past crushing our freedom of speech. So there we go. Again, appreciate your time, your effort, and until the next video, I will see you on the trail.